Hi everyone, my name is Nikki Simpson and welcome to my channel, 8 Legs and Eyeshadows. If you love makeup, this is definitely the place for you to be. If you love tarantulas, this is also definitely the place for you to be. If you don't love tarantulas, hear me out for a second, because I have found from my followings on other social media platforms that most people who do not love tarantulas and are in fact scared of most spiders no matter their size really do find it entertaining to learn about them and see them from the comfort of a screen. So I would absolutely love to share with you my knowledge and my experience with all things creepy, crawly, 8-legged, just wonderfulness, because that is absolutely how I see my spider babies. Okay, so this is the first video of my channel. I've decided to come over here to the wonderful world of YouTube and share my love of makeup and my love for tarantulas with y'all. What I'm going to do is put on a full face of makeup while I talk about my spider babies. And for today's episode, I figured what better way to start than to start with how I found myself in this absolutely fascinating, wonderful hobby. It's a bit of a long story, so we've kind of got to go back to October, September, something like that, I don't know, of 2006 to whenever I acquired my very first spider baby, which was absolutely by accident. I have never been scared of spiders, like, ever. I've always thought they were cool, they were fascinating, but I never ever did see myself owning one, never really cared to own one. But sometimes life happens and things change, and now I am just absolutely in love with them, and I love having them and taking care of them and watching them grow and all of those things. So without further ado, let's get started. Also, I would like to note that yes, this right here is a mirror that I will be using while I do this, because I am actually legally blind and I cannot wear contacts. So the only way, and this is one of the things that has held me back from starting a YouTube channel, I've actually wanted to for quite some time, but I finally decided to say, screw it, I'm going to do it the best way that I can. And that is my camera set back so I don't have to be right up in your face. And I have a mirror right here to where I can see what I am doing. Okay, so like I said previously, this all started back in like September or October of 2006. And it started with me just deciding one day that I needed to go to Petco to purchase something for the cat that I had at the time. Well, my uncle just so happens to be at my house, and he's like, "Hey kiddo, can I ride with you?" To which I'm like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" And so off we go. We head off to Petco land, and as everyone knows, you can't go to Petco without checking out the other animals. Like, you just can't do it. Like, you have to see them all. So we're walking around, you know, we see all the hamsters and the guinea pigs and the rodents and just like whatever. And then we come down the aisle that has the invertebrates on it, or, well, not invertebrates, but has like the more creepy crawly kind of things. It's got snakes and lizards and, you know, that type of thing. So here we are, we're walking down that aisle, and we see these two tarantulas. And the thing is like they're in this terrarium and they can't be housed together. So it's like this big terrarium that has one in it, and then the other one is in, like, they got like one more something than they had enclosures for. So they put her in this little bitty enclosure, like seriously about this big, like not much bigger than this mirror here. And she's just like all scrunched up in it, and she has no room, nowhere to move. It's like her and a water dish, and that's it. A Grammostola rosea, which is more commonly known as a rosehair tarantula. So there she is, and I'm just like, you know, I'm just talking. I'm just like, oh my gosh, she's so cute. I hate to leave her here, blah, blah, blah. And honest to goodness, I swear I never, ever, ever meant for the first thing to come of that. I honestly did not. So next thing I know, my uncle's like, if I buy this for you, this is like your Christmas present, your birthday present, everything. Like, all in one. Like, this is what you're getting. And so I'm like, are you serious? Like, are you, like, really, really serious? And he was totally serious. So, what does he do? He buys it. And I'm just, like, completely, like, freaked out. And I'm, like, excited. And I have no clue. Like, I have no clue at all what I'm getting myself into. I have never looked into owning one. None of that. So, but I figured, can't be too hard, and I'll learn along the way, you know? So, he gets her for me. He gets me some substrate. He gets me a little shoebox sized terrarium to keep her in. And I am just over the moon excited. So I get back home with her. And my parents are like totally open to the idea. Like, I'm still living at home. I'm like, I don't know, 19 at the time. But my parents are like totally fine with it. My mom's happy because, you know, she doesn't really like having animals in the house, but this is something that's going to stay in a terrarium, and it's not going to make a mess or be noisy or loud or stink or, you know, any of the things that come with like owning cats and dogs and birds and other animals I had throughout the years. So she's cool with it. My dad's cool with it. Everybody's cool with it. Here's the kicker, though. I do not tell my boyfriend about it because he does not like spiders. He's one of those people that's like the majority of people, and he thinks they're gross, he thinks they're creepy, he's weirded out by them, he does not like them. So the next day rolls around, and it's like, well, kind of got to tell him. So what do? I just show up, and he happens to be outside whenever I pull up. And I'm just like, hey, get out of the car. I got the passenger side window down, and she's sitting in the passenger side seat. And I kind of like get out, and I run around to him, and I give him a big hug, and I'm all like, I love you. You know I love you, right? To which he is like, you know, what'd you do? Like, that's like his instant, like, what'd you do? And I'm like, you can't be mad at me. And he's like, well, you know, kind of depends on what you do. And so I can't think of a better way to introduce her. So I just like reach over and I reach down into the seat and spin around and like, look what I got. To which he flips. Like, he completely freaks out. And he's like, cussing and, you know, just like throwing a fit, and like I just sit there because it's like he's not cussing at me, or he's like, it's like he's not cussing me, but he's cussing like just at the whole situation in general, I guess you'd say. And so I just like sit there and I let him, you know, get it all out of his system and all of that. And I'm sitting there all big puppy dog eyes, and I'm like, you know, I'll just take her back tomorrow. Like, it's not too late. They'll take her back. I'll take her back tomorrow. And to which, of course, he's like, no, you know, I'm not fixing to make you do that, but I still can't believe that you brought this thing home. But nonetheless, so that's September, October 2006. So that's whenever I got my sweet Rosie. Okay, so, like I said before, I had no experience. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. And at that time, I don't even know if Facebook was quite a thing yet. I know I didn't have Facebook. I had MySpace, and MySpace wasn't something that... Actually, I may not have even had MySpace yet. So all I had to go on was care sheets from Petco and what little I could find about keeping them in captivity on Google, which actually was not a lot. There wasn't much information at all on Google where, like, what I needed to do to make sure that she had, like, the best life. So, I'm completely winging it. We've had her a few days now, and she's in her little shoebox, and I'm I used to build jigsaw puzzles back then. So she is sitting on the floor next to me while I'm building a jigsaw puzzle, and John comes in the room and he goes to step over me. And when he does that, his foot caught the edge of it and he literally catapulted her across his room, enclosure and all, just like cutting flips, going across the room. To which he completely freaked out because he was scared. He was worried she was going to be hurt because he knew what she meant to me. And then he was also scared that she was going to get out. Thankfully, though, she's completely fine. Okay, so her being in the shoebox-sized terrarium that she was in, I actually would just take her back and forth with me. Like, if I was at his house, I would take her there. If I was staying at home, I would take her home. Well, eventually, I did upgrade her from the shoebox-sized terrarium to something that was more like a 10, 12-gallon terrarium that was glass with like a big mesh top, and it was to be permanent, like fixed in place somewhere. So I've upgraded her to this really, really nice enclosure like that. And this goes back to, I had no clue what I was doing, had no business whatsoever raising a tarantula. So one night I come in and it's late. It's probably like midnight, 1 in the morning, something, I don't know. But I happen to look over and she's laying on her back and she's got her legs up in the air. And I panic, like completely freak out. Okay, so like I'm, at a loss. I don't know what's happening. I think that she's dying. Like, I'm pretty sure at this point that she's dead or she's fixing to die. So I go and I run and like bust up in my parents' room and wake my dad up, and I am like hysterical, And so he comes out to check everything out for me. And he instantly, like, whenever he looks over in there, he knows. Like, he knows what's going on. And he, I kid you not, laughs at me. Like, I am a crying, hysterical mess. And he laughs at me. And I'm trying to figure out, like, what is so freaking funny? Because to me, nothing's funny. And he's like, she's molting. She's growing. And I'm like, the hell is that? What does that have to do with her being on her back? Like, I seriously had no clue. Like, we've had her for months, and I had no clue at that time that the way spiders grew was that they shed their old skin, and then they grew. And then their skin got hard again. Like, I didn't know. I had no idea. Okay, so now we're going to have to fast forward a little bit. After that, life's kind of uneventful. It's really cool, to feed her and stuff, to watch when she eats. You just do basic care, make sure she has water, all those things. And like I said, pretty uneventful, for quite a few years. During that time, I end up having a son. And one day, he's probably like somewhere around 5, give or take. So my son has never known life without Rosie. And so he decides one day he's looking in her terrarium. And like I said before, this new big glass one has the big mesh top. He decides that he thinks she needs some water. That her water dish is a little bit too empty for his liking. So what does he do? He goes into the kitchen and he gets, I kid you not, do y'all know, like, you see them in novelty stores and things like that, like, or when you go on vacation, they're in gas stations, those big, huge 64-ounce to a gallon insulated mugs. And so he goes and he gets this, okay, and fills it up to the top with water and decides at least 3 different times, because I think what happened was, like, the force of him pouring it through the top, most of it was splashing out of the water dish. And so he was thinking like he wasn't giving her enough water. And by the time I come in and I realize like what he's doing, what he has done, it's like this thick with water. And she's just like surfing around on the top. And I'm like freaked out. Like, I am absolutely freaked out. From this point on, she does not let anyone touch her. That completely changed her demeanor. I'm not a big advocate for handling your tarantulas anyway, but she used to be pretty docile if I needed to move her for one reason or another, whether it was cleaning out her terrarium or whatever. she had always been really cool and really docile. But after this, I ended up having to get a bowl and get her in it and then put her in a shoebox for me to run and get more substrate. I did not, because she was my only tarantula. I didn't make a habit of keeping extra substrate on hand. I honestly did not know I would need it. So she is like floating around and like there's no saving the substrate. So then, so I run all the way back to the pet store. Mind you, pet stores are no closer than 30 minutes to my house. And the first one that I go to, they have absolutely no substrate, none whatsoever. So then I go like 10, 12 miles to the next one. And the only substrate that they have is it's Eco Earth brick. Okay, so the Eco Earth, it's a brick like this. Like it's a brick like it looks like a brick you would build your house with. And what you do is you submerge it in water. You soak it in water. They recommend like a 5-gallon bucket. I used my kitchen sink because I didn't have a bucket. And it expands, and then you have all this soaking wet dirt. It's cocoa fiber and other fibers like that compressed together. I do that, and then, but I need it dry. Like, Rosie can't go in soaking wet dirt like that. She's not built for super humid, moist environments. We'll get to that more in a different video, but she needs, her environment needs to be more dry. So I can't think of any way to dry it other than I take several cookie sheets and I put really, really thin layers of this dirt on the cookie sheets, and I'm baking it in the oven. I'm literally up to like 3 in the morning cooking dirt because it's cocoa fiber and not actual dirt. I actually caught it on fire a couple of times because I got it a little bit too hot. And so I'm cooking it and then putting it in a bowl and then putting it in the freezer to cool it off because I can't, cook her in the dirt. So that was something really, really fun and interesting that we experienced with Rosie. Okay, after that incident, things calm down pretty much, and life is great, life is normal, back to the same old routine. Then, in April of 2015, and I remember it exactly like that because I was pregnant with my second son, and it was the day after my birthday. I just happened to walk by and notice that Rosie was molting again. No big deal. I know at this time, I know what molting is, I know what it looks like, I know what to do, which is nothing. When they are molting, you 100% just leave them alone and you let them do what they're going to do because they're really soft and they're really vulnerable at this point. So, I'm just going about my day and, I'll peek in on her every now and then, kind of check on her, all of that, but for the most part, I'm just leaving her alone. Well, the next thing I know, I happen to glance over and she's literally spazzing out. Like, she is flipping around all over the place, going absolutely nuts. And I don't know what to do. This is unheard of. This is not normal behavior, and I really, truly do not know what to do. So I go and I check on her, and that's when I notice that she is stuck inside of her molt. Like, all of her body has molted and come out, with the exception of one of her legs. One of her legs is stuck inside of the old skin, and that leg is hanging on, and it is not letting go. It is not letting go. So I don't know what to do because I live in the South, and in the South nobody cares. The amount of people that tell me they would like to squish my pet is absolutely astronomical. Vets alike. Nobody cares. So I call the zoo. I don't know what else to do. I call the zoo. To which, so helpful. Oh my gosh, the Memphis Zoo was absolutely so freaking helpful to me in this moment. Okay, so now I'm on the phone with the zoo, and they are telling me that she's gonna kill herself if I don't pull the leg off. And I'm like, huh? What? What? And they're like, she's going to flip around like that until she causes serious injury to herself unless you get that leg off. And I'm terrified. it's like, how am I supposed to do this? And they walk me through it, and it's actually quite simple. Because she was flipping around like she was, and because I was pregnant, and though rose hair tarantulas they're not known for having, exceptionally venomous venom, I was pregnant, so I didn't want to get bit, because I don't know of the first story of a pregnant woman getting bit and how that could affect things. So my husband, who I'm still with, the same guy that I was with in 2006 when I first got the tarantula, so at this point, he is now my husband, and he is spazzing out, because even after all this time, even after 2006 to 2015, 9 years, he still has not yet gotten used to her, and still does not have anything at all whatsoever to do with her. So I end up having to send him away. Like, I tell him that I'm hungry and I want something to eat that is not in the house, so that he has to leave. And I tell him that the zoo said that she would work it out on her own. I lied. I know that's bad, but I did. I lied. And so he leaves. Whenever he leaves, what I had to do, y'all, it's kind of cringe warning here, but what I had to do, I had to get a popsicle stick, and I literally had to hold her down with a popsicle stick, and then take a pair of tweezers, grab her leg like as close to her big old body as I could, and snap her leg off. I had to make sure it was quick and it was a clean snap. And that's what I had to do. Traumatizing. Absolutely freaking traumatizing. I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I did, and I saved her life. And so for the next year, she had 7 legs. Here's another really, really cool fact about that. They can regrow their legs. So for the next year, she has 7 legs. And she was fine. She was completely normal. She ate normal. She crawled around normal. You would never in a million years believe that she was missing her leg. Didn't seem to bother her at all, having only 7. And then she molted again after about a year. And when she molted again, she grew her leg back. The thing was, though, and honestly, I think she was better off, and I recalled the zoo again on this too, and they gave me options, but I honestly believe that she was better off without the leg than the leg that grew back, even though we did decide to leave it. The leg that grew back was smaller, and that wasn't so much the problem to me as it was that it was stiff. It literally just stuck straight out the side of her body. Okay, so now she has all 8 legs again, even though that one is kind of deformed. She did eventually molt one more time, and that time I was extremely surprised. She molted with no problem. The leg grew back a little bit bigger that time, but it was still very much so straight and stiff and defective. But that's just kind of how it goes, I guess. And then sadly, so it's uneventful for the rest of her life, which sadly ended in late 2018. We just kind of noticed that she had stopped eating. She would not eat at all. I think her last meal before she passed away, she probably hadn't eaten for roughly 6 months or so. And that was not from lack of us trying. Every 2 weeks, like clockwork, we offered her food. She just would not eat it. And I came home one day and she was in a death curl. We can get more into that in a later video, but she did not come out of it. We tried to do a tarantula ICU, which, for the most part, and I believe this, they're not very effective. They work a extremely small percentage of the time, But having two kids who have known nothing but a life with her, and as much as I loved her too, I just wanted to know that we did absolutely everything possible that we could think of to try and save her. We did not want to let her go. But that is the story of my Rosie and how I became a tarantula mama. When we lost her, I actually said I would never own another one. I didn't want another one. There would never be another Rosie. Unlike a whole lot of people in the hobby who have, dozens of them, if not more, I had always only just had her. Like, she was my baby, and I was smitten with her, and she was the only one that I needed. So I didn't need any more. I wasn't going to get any more. And then there's also the fact that even 12 years later, my husband still was not crazy about tarantulas. He could do just as well without one. But, I love tarantulas, and he loves me. That being said, in February of 2019, we decided to... Sorry, that like sounded so funny. Me touching my face when I was doing that. But in February of 2019, we decided that we would once again own tarantulas. So that is where this video series is going to pick up at. So if you would like to know more about my adventures with tarantulas, as well as just common facts and info about different species of tarantulas, please be sure to like this video and subscribe, because every week we're going to talk about something new while we try a new makeup look. I have came such a long way since 2006, whenever I got that first spider baby that I didn't know what I was doing. And now I am an absolute wealth of knowledge that I love to share. It is definitely, other than my kids and my makeup career, sharing my wealth of knowledge about tarantulas is my absolute favorite thing in the whole world to do. I actually probably like it better than the makeup part, if I'm being honest. If you have enjoyed this video as much as I have enjoyed making this video, please be sure to like and subscribe. I will be back next week with another story about my beloved spider babies. And please always remember, you are unique, you are awesome. Always be true to the quirks that make you, you, because that is your superpower. I will see you guys later. Bye.